Hi everybody and welcome to another wonderful zombie video. Today we're going into the good, the bad of the Darkest Shore and DLC 2. What happened? What was going on with this map? What's with the hype and all of the recourse and reactions? It's kind of like a race to see who can be the most contrarian and highly critical of the map yet. But in particular, how many people just love hating on this. I even had my co-host tell me it was one of the worst maps ever made in Call of Duty.
It's one of, if not the worst map ever, honestly.
Which I think is a bit extreme. So I want to do a video talking about what it did right and some of the things it needs work on. But different than most videos, instead of complaining and being useless, I actually, for every problem I bring up with the map, I suggest a solution. This is something I suggest you implement in your life as well. Instead of being that person in your life that sits there complaining to everybody, if you say, well, this is wrong, here's why, and this is how we could fix it, at the very least you'll get a lot farther in life. So let's start with the good, and I'll bounce back and forth between the good and the bad so we don't get too heavy on one side, because God forbid we have opinions on the internet.
I don't like this thing, but I like that thing. I like that thing. What the fuck? I like that thing!
If I say one good thing, someone will say, ah, you fanboy, you're just giving in to World War II. And then if I go too much bad, oh, you're just one of those YouTube haters.
But I do like this thing. I don't like that thing. I don't fuck. That thing fucking sucks. I fucking hate that thing. Oh!
Oh, what is my life? So good. We had new radios. We just had to find 3 radios that gave us a bunch of messages. I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 10 new messages we had, and they were also quality and detail adding to the story. Something I commend Sledgehammer to continue to do is make these radios important and the messages relevant. Just giving us 50 radios that never do anything or never pay off in any way isn't going to progress the story, and they've been doing a fabulous job with the radios and the video diaries we had of Straub in the Final Reich. I hope for much more of those to come, and I really encourage them to try and get more of those video diaries in here because they add such a good cherry on top to each of their storyline sequences in each DLC. The next good thing I want to commend them for is the Nerthus storyline. I would recommend you go see my 15-minute, it's pretty darn quick video explaining the storyline of the Darkest Shore. It worked because it was logical. It played on the mysticism and the occult that we love to obsess about as people. It's based in reality, but just shifted. They got us to buy into the sci-fi and fantasy elements that once we get into that world, we're free to suspend our disbelief, and they don't break us out of that during their storytelling at any point during my personal enjoyment. And the story itself is easy enough to find and research on the internet and understand. Once you put a couple dots together, the whole storyline makes a lot of sense. You see, there was lots of thought and effort put into it, and you get to resonate with the interest and the wonder of the story, something that is essential to zombies. But also, I think it's important to note that World War II is going for something very different than what Treyarch is. Treyarch crafts a storyline game to game to game, where an entire storyline is being forced into a single game in a single season. It's a liberty that Treyarch gets because they were the first and they are #1 in the Call of Duty zombie genre. We are willing to give them many games to pay off their storylines, while World War II and IW are under higher scrutiny from the higher-ups in Activision for this game mode to sell and push copies, so they seem to take the approach of publishing it in a single game. What that impacts in the storyline is how they can develop things DLC to DLC. You can't spend 30 maps developing Tank Dempsey from an Ultimus to a Primus version, and so on. So we had 2 goods. That's enough, Reed! You keep blowing all the smoke up their butts. You're just a fanboy. Well, if we could have a critical discussion here about the game mode, let's talk about some of the constructive criticism I have for the game mode as well. And I only label this as bad, as in just it was a negative experience, not so much that it's fundamentally broken and I can't play this. I want to reiterate that all my enjoyment of things in life are on a spectrum. So just because I think certain things aren't as good as the other doesn't mean I'm polarized like, well, if one thing's bad, can't play it. Going home. No more game mode. No. I like to enjoy it for what it is. Ah, this was fun. Some things weren't so good. That was all right. Anywho, the beach sequence left a lot to be desired. It's an awesome setup in the intro, but a rush similar to Area 51 would have had a better payoff and would have been a neat challenge for players to start the map with. It forces us to want to use those MGs on the beach. I have no pressure at all when I play this game, especially because of my rank. I don't have to worry about the zombies, as I think I have in my gameplay. I can casually walk around the beach, reload my weapon, take all the time in the world, and from single player to 4 player, they add more zombies, but the speed isn't there. There's no pressure in that opening sequence. And maybe they're going for that classic Romero vibe where they're slowly coming at you, but the weight of the trophy for not using the MG turrets is basically non-existent because I can easily take my time meleeing them all to death. Getting them to start rushing after the first couple shots would give you the challenging gameplay mechanic and cinematically something very appealing to players. But I'm sure actually if they did that, we'd have to hear people saying, "He just copied Treyarch." The next bit of feedback I have is pretty big. This one talks about no new specialists, mods, or consumables for DLC 1. To keep the game engaging, there needs to be updates to the way we play the game. Infinite Warfare and Treyarch added new weapons, consumables, gun upgrades throughout their seasons. Now, World War II might be going for something completely different mechanically, but that doesn't mean they should take their foot off the gas pedal in the direction they're going. Use orders in-game, which still aren't out yet for zombies, to get special consumables and make us want to keep playing the game mode. Allow us to get those special rare 4 insta-kills if we do certain daily, weekly challenges. Even go as far as to giving us the ripsaw out of the box or giving us Tesla guns out of the box. Think about all the people that would be reinvested in the Final Reich trying to do speed runs of these maps if they can have a consumable that's going to guarantee them the Blood Raven Tesla gun that's really hard to get out of the box, or maybe it guarantees you one of the 4 Tesla guns. It would completely change how players play the Final Reich. Now I want to break into the specialists, the mods, and consumable suggestions. I just gave you a couple consumable suggestions for the type of consumables you could continue to add without destroying the meta, where we don't have a power vacuum, we don't have a shopping free and stuff like that. You can keep running in that direction with the special weapons on the map, lowering the barriers to entry on doors and getting some cash back. There's a lot of room for innovation on that front. In the same breath, there's a specialist ability I just thought about in the shower. Nothing too crazy here, and it helps them even reuse asset, is with a copycat that takes a specialist ability and gives it to our player at random every time they click their specialist ability. Now you might go, oh, that doesn't sound so fun. Why wouldn't I just pick and choose a single one? Well, one of the perks of this specialist ability is that it might assign you random mods, maybe 1 extra random mod or 2 extra random mods on top of the ones that you've already selected. So it gives you that risk and reward. If you have the right ones on, you might be able to have 5 mods when you hit a certain specialist if it comes up. And now the real big benefit of this is if you're in the red, as you can see, there's 2 different stages when you pop your specialist ability. You have the first one where it's yellow, and then if you get power up drop, red gauge full, I would suggest that once the red gauge runs out, then we change the specialist ability. This way you'll be getting 2 specialist abilities within the 30 seconds or so it takes for that to run out. That gives players a really interesting way of getting to experience mods they wouldn't normally experience. Then they want to try them out the next game to be like, whoa, what did I get during one of those random times that made me so good with this setup? And then they're gonna mix and match, play more, and figure out what they like and don't, and just keep that randomness on. That's something that's already in-game assets that would give so much replayability to this game. And I think replayability is the #1 thing lacking in World War II Zombies. Not that it's completely unreplayable, I still enjoyed picking it up maybe once a week, if that, after release. On release, you know, you play it for about 10 to 20 hours and you kind of get tired and burnt out of maps. That's true for all IW, Treyarch maps. That's all the same. But the willingness to come back, it doesn't seem as strong right now, especially because there's a catalog of 32 something maps already that we can go play instead of World War II. Now we can take this a step further for the replayability, because we can add more mod slots. We only have 3 we choose from. Maybe as we level up or we finish Easter eggs, which I'm not as keen on that one, or possibly challenges. Encourage players to get to round 40, right? Just like our secret challenges, you get to round 40, we'll give you another mod slot. You complete all the Easter eggs in each map, we'll give you a mod slot. You get the grand challenge, kind of like how we have those big special orders that will give us a gun. Well, you have some big special orders, the number of games you play or something, that gives you a mod. You're rewarding players with more ways to play the longer they play. I think a system like that makes players feel excited about your game mode, and it's this reciprocity inside the game. I work really hard to level up and play your game, and then you give me more chances and opportunities to enjoy it in new ways and play it for longer. Now you might say it's not that easy creating specialists and new mods and all that type of stuff, and when we start adding up all those mods, how is that going to affect the balance of the game? Are we going to become too overpowered? Are things going to get out of control? Well, that comes from the developer's end as well, where they got to try and figure out, okay, what can we not mix and match? And quite possibly, you code that in, that these mods can't be on the same class, almost like a ban list of sorts for certain things that would be game breaking, so it's only limiting in certain respects. But I want to take your attention to a Reddit post that's almost 84 days old. I tweeted about this, I was trying to find it, and I ended up finding it myself. I remembered reading it. An avid fan of the mode did an awesome job creating graphics and coming up with suggestions for these mod features and specialist abilities. I'll show these images on screen, and again in the description I will link his original Reddit post so you can read it through and make sure credit goes to Crazy Kieran, who did such a wonderful job with this. I won't read them all out to you because you can read faster than I can talk, but I'll put them on screen so you can pause them and look at them during your leisure. Certain things like abilities last longer, but the meter feels slower. Each shot to the head temporarily increases a headshot multiplier. Sharing jolts is replaced with sharing ammo. Move faster while crouching, proning, and downed. Reviving players grants both players a temporary speed boost and damage boost. Limit once per round. Increase health regen rate for all players that are within the ring. This is now the specialist he suggested, Dead Walk. Increases the range and effect of the ring. Gives a specialist meter multiplier to all allies that enter the ring. Does not affect others with Dead Walk. Increase the melee speed and range for all players in the ring. The idea behind these mods are, again, getting you to try different styles. Melee, run around, heal players, support players, go independent, work on making yourself super strong. I really love these ideas that what makes World War II Zombies so appealing and so interesting is their mods. Go all in. Don't be afraid. Bet on yourself with the system you made and go for it. Because it's not Treyarch Zombies, and Treyarch doesn't like class setups and character selection, all that stuff. They might change their tune, but Jason Blundell has been very adamant about not putting those things in for fundamental reasons because they are trying to do something different with their game. We can actually experience things that Treyarch isn't willing to do because they're going for something else. And I think that's the best move any developer can make, is doing their own thing and trying to make their own game and not trying to piggyback and be better than Treyarch at the things Treyarch's best at. You'll never beat them at what they're best at, but you can be better than them at the things they're not good at. Let's get back to some good things now, you hater. You just a big old hater. Let's talk about the fog for a second. On screen, you'll see the gameplay mechanics that I really liked the fog, and some people are very adverse to it, but I think, again, it gets into not understanding it. On screen, I don't fire a shot, and the zombies, they might follow me with their eyes, but they're not hitting me. I can crouch, I can stand. They can't see me in the fog, and they lose me in the fog. It's actually a temporary relief, especially if Moistler isn't out and around. But as soon as I fire a shot, they found me. But even if I fire a shot, I can run deeper in the fog and lose them again, and then they respawn and they can't find me. That's a fine mechanic, and it gives that really cinematic look of the shadow just disappearing from the zombie in the fog, and then it appears again. But when they appear, they're not doing the thing I was most concerned about, blowing up in your face. It's not as obnoxious. It doesn't come every round like Call of the Dead does at times, or multiple times around because it's sitting on a timer. This is more round-based, or it might be in a timer in game that just takes so long. It's way longer than what we experienced in the Call of the Dead. On the flip side, Transit was just obnoxious in their implementation of fog because it covered up all the lack of textures and the lack of content inside a map that was unfinished. And I don't say that out of hate or something from the map. I talked with Jason Blundell on our Zombros podcast, and he said the team at Treyarch absolutely believes that map was unfinished, and it was a result of trying to do too much with too little time, and by the time they had to release it, it wasn't as good as they would have hoped.
The problem that happened was, as we got closer to the end of development, something that Jimmy faced was that, and he'll be able to speak about this far better than I would, but what happened was there was a call which was like, okay, we can't get all these modes to the kind of standard we want, but we need to make the call to kind of strip them away and switch them off. But that decision was made, unfortunately, a little bit too late. And so what happened is the core experience that got released had a bunch of things where if that's all they'd focused on, some of those rough edges would have been smoothed out.
Okay.
And so that's the kind of, I'm sure, let's put it this way, if Jimmy was to sit down and look at that, he would probably make a series of strategic changes if he'd had the full development just looking at that map, just with that focus. Because he was doing some really ambitious stuff with the different game modes, and it just ran out of time. That's one of the dangers of development. It's zombie development is very much like sailing a boat while building it at the same time. And one of the problems is you can say, I want to do all these features and these things, and if you attach everything to it, when you realize you can't get there and you have to take it away, suddenly other things then start falling apart because they're all linked. And that was unfortunately some of the properties that Transit inherited, which was there was things that were connected and the focus was going to different places. It got stripped away, and then other things had to get stripped away, and then what you were left with had some, in my opinion, some fundamental challenges, which if you'd given the full time to focus on just that, would have been far smoother.
On that same note, let's talk about the Moistlers. I very much enjoy them. And one thing people might say is, they're too powerful, they're bullet sponges on screen. I'll show you just a simple solo gameplay of me killing them in less than 5 seconds. My friend Nick showed us that we could kill them in less than 10 seconds with the carabin, but I said, give me free fire, give me the headshot multiplier, and I just laid into him with my carabin and dropped him instantly. People have optimized the boss fight to a point that even my co-host Quinn, when he did the Easter egg, said it was a joke fight. Oh my god, how easy it was. It was the worst fight ever because we were just killing them. Well, that's a product of players learning, enjoying the game, and optimizing the game. That's the same thing we do with Treyarch zombies. We can beat boss fights in seconds. I don't hear people complaining about beating Nikolai in 6 seconds. We go, hell yeah! We just beat the shit out of that mech. And I like what they did with that boss fight because it stops the arms race of boss fights that continues to go on today. I'll get into that in more detail in another video, but the summary of it is, we have to keep going bigger and bigger, our expectations get bigger and bigger, and then we don't enjoy the games. That doesn't mean this boss fight was underwhelming and crappy, it just means it wasn't another singular giant boss we had to kill. It was a different experience that we can enjoy. In the context of the map, it gets even better with the storyline. The Moistlers themselves evolve with us inside the storyline and adapt to our specialist abilities and use them against us. When they're getting shot at, they run away. Now, I've seen criticisms being like, smart zombies? These guys are idiots. You just shoot them and they run away. That's a lot smarter than all the zombies that continue to run at you as you mow them down with bullets. Granted, this isn't the smartest AI in the world, but it's still a great approach to having a smarter zombie that's going to attempt to kill you and try and run away and sneak up behind you when you least expect it during the fog. But as we know, we can optimize it so we can beat the living Christ out of them. To me, that's a good sign, just like Brutus or the Panzer Soldat, where we've optimized those where we can kill them in seconds if it's right, but if we're in the wrong place at the wrong time, Origins Panzer, Zombie Chronicles without an insta-kill, whew! No staffs or a Mark II, you're in trouble. You're gonna be dealing with a Panzer that is dangerous, no matter how good you are. And the Moistlers give us that similar experience. Another wonderful thing I want to point out about this map is the character quotes and how Sledgehammer replied to the storyline aspects of the characters talking to each other in 4-player by changing it from whatever if statements and conditional statements were in the game, preventing us from hearing these conversations to anybody that plays 4 players, if you make it to round 30, you're going to get the whole story. And more people now have gotten involved. I hear more and more people excited about the Darkest Shore and World War II zombies because they're understanding what's going on. That's some of the best portions of Call of Duty zombies we've experienced in the past. And again, I'm going to make another video analyzing that in much more detail because I want to compare what things work really well with Treyarch zombies with that story narrative and why this Darkest Shore works so well with it in the same respect. But I'll give you a quick summary because these videos tend to go long. I'd rather not combine them into 3-hour videos. We can split them up into smaller thesis-like segments. Basically, our characters are self-aware in the maps, and they're actually reacting like we are to the things around them, and that makes it more believable. It gets us more connected to the characters and immerses us inside this world. When we get into Revelations, there's constant circumstances in which our characters have literally no comment about the crazy stuff around them, which disconnects the players from caring or understanding what's going on. We shoot the graves and they go, that did something. Why did we even do that? Why did they see something? Is there any visual cue? When the Keeper gives a radio, they go, wow, this goes somewhere. Those type of things aren't as effective as Shangri-La, for example, where they're talking and all of a sudden a focusing zone smashes into the mountain. They go, whoa, did you just see that? I think something went into the mountain. Quick, everyone to the mountain. It builds a better experience for storytelling and gameplay. And I think Sledgehammer is improving with each map so far. All right, you dirty fanboy, back to the others. Give me some other feedback here and criticism. Sure, for solo, this map is not friendly, especially because of the map size. 4 players, I've sincerely enjoyed this, and solo, I like going about maybe 20, 25, 30, it starts to get really redundant. But there's one thing I could see the developers saying to me in response. It's almost the same thing that Jason Blundell said to me when I had issues with the storyline he was telling in Black Ops 3. When you get to them, they go, well, that's not what we're going for. I'm trying to tell something that's multi-generational. I'm not trying to do a short run and short-sighted zombie storyline. I want this to go as long as possible. Obviously, coming from Jason Blundell, it's different from hearing that from a marketing guy inside Activision. Activision's more coming from a place of we want to get more money from our IP versus Jason Blundell truly loves this storyline. If you can't tell that in all the interviews he has, then you know, project what you will onto the man. But say Sledgehammer says, we wanted a small map, we want a tight map, we want to take you back to that feeling of claustrophobia and really trying to constrain players. Well, why not give them the option to unlock more areas like you already showed us, like the Nurthus area. Inside that ritual room, there's still not enough area to train, and you constantly have moistlers spawning in. Why don't you utilize the assets already inside your game? That is the airfield that's over there, and the barracks and the blimps. There's all this beautiful map covered in fog over there, and yes, it's barren right now, but you could retexture that just a little bit more and give that to us as a reward or a secret area. Bring a bomb zombie over to those cliffs you see on screen, blow open that, and let us run down there. Now we have all kinds of new mechanics we can experience and new areas. We get that freedom and reward, whether it be figuring out an Easter egg, solving the main quest of the Easter egg, or completing a challenge, maybe surviving to a certain round or doing something a certain way in the map. We see our challenge characters constantly reward us for playing differently. Why not do that with other areas inside the map? And then you can even take that area that you already created with the blimps and make that its own little small map, like a Groston house, and make it the equivalent of another survival map. And now players got 2 maps for their DLC, but secret is, you still only made 1. You only added a couple more assets, reused a couple things, and look at where you're at. You have a better product with more replayability. Just like getting back into the specialists I talked about earlier. You can reuse things that completely change how we get to experience the game. But with that said, it seems like there's not enough diversification in the style of the map. I personally love the atmosphere of both the Final Reich and the Darkest Shore, but this is a very subjective criticism I'm coming up to next. A lot of people felt that it all looks the same and it feels reused from, I think, Havoc, the multiplayer map, all the outside besides the Ritual Room. The Ritual Room is starkly different than the rest of the map, and I love that. But there's got to be more areas to that. In Origins, for example, we have a crazy place. We have the pile or the mound inside there with all the staff chambers, and then we also have all the mud outside. You create these areas that you really feel like you're in different locations, experiencing a different journey. In the Final Reich, what they did so well is that you could go almost anywhere and train, Remember that trap area where you charge the battery? You could train there. Remember the blood area where Pack-a-Punch was? You could train there. Literally anywhere outside, you could train there. You could train in the main power room. You could even train near the electric trap in the top of the courtyard. They allowed you to play the game because of how fast-paced this is. You don't camp inside World War II zombies. It's truly not an option unless you do some magic I've never seen yet achieved on this game. Maybe Relaxing End should get on that challenge. But the map doesn't encourage you to train anywhere but maybe the sub-pens, the beach, maybe up top, and they all sort of blend together at that point, which is frustrating to a lot of solo players that feel like I have 3, maybe 2 areas I'm going to train, versus the Final Reich where I have literally the entire map to go anywhere I want. I'll touch on 2 more things, or basically 1 topic here, before we get back to some more good. Let's talk about the weapon selection and the perk selection on these maps. I want to encourage all the developers to be bold in what they do in these games and continue to push the envelope for what it means to be playing zombies. I love the fact that Sledgehammer took Jug and said, get out of here, we're going to put a shield system in. We're going to change up fundamentally how you guys get more health in this game. That's great. Don't stop there. Don't get safe in this sort of success that was accepted by the community. Treyarch did it, Infinity Ward did it, and Sledgehammer does it. We have the same perks on the same maps. Stuff that was so effective in the classic Treyarch games was PhD and Stamina Up were only on Ascension until the next DLC came out. Then we got Double Tap back, but oh my god, we didn't even have that in Ascension. They took away our Double Tap. Then Shangri-La kind of celebrated all the perks. Oh, that's pretty good. But then originally Moon came back in and it had Mule Kick exclusively. And Shang didn't have Mule Kick before the patch, of course, that gave Mule Kick to all the maps. It gave you reasons to play certain maps. Oh, I can have 3 guns inside Moon, and I can use Double Tap with PhD and Stamina on Call of the Dead, but I can also play that Ascension map I really enjoy with the monkey mechanic that isn't seen on any other map and still have PhD and speed at the cost of Double Tap. We don't really get that inside World War II zombies or even some of the Revelations and the latest iteration of Treyarch zombies or in IW, which they did a little bit of changing up in perks and they let you upgrade variants and stuff like that inside IW, which was very effective at letting you work for new guns and getting new play styles. All the guns are available in World War II Zombies, which is nice, but it doesn't give us any reason to come back to a map that we don't like because there's nothing unique about it. We have some really good implementation of the AA guns, the planes, again the fog, I'll reiterate, that could have really been big issues with these maps, but they're not gimmicky enough to make people go out of their way to replay the maps because they gotta start treading through the Easter egg to activate these things. What I suggest to make some of these maps more unique is to put those DLC weapons that are involved every time you give a new game, put them on the wall. That way players now get to try out these new DLC weapons on the wall, and now you're encouraging them to want the variants. Well, you know, that terrifies everybody else going, supply drops! But then it gets players playing across both platforms, and I know Sledgehammer would probably be pretty excited if the zombie guys help the multiplayer guys and the multiplayer guys help the zombie guys, because there's more variants in multiplayer for the guns you use inside zombies. That becomes this win-win, where the more you play, the more we reward you. I might be naive as I say this in this point that I believe that the developers want to reward us with more stuff in-game and not charge us and monetize us at every point. I still believe developers like their games and like us having fun as I say this, but companies, you know, like EA make me question exactly what I'm saying. Because I swear, every time I say this, I hear a marketing guy going, well, why don't we charge for that? So what I suggest for the perks is lift some perks from other games or create your own and mix and match them in maps. Let's take Speed Cola out for a map. Let's take Stamina Up out for a map. Probably not Double Tap 2 because that seems to be very important to getting to high rounds because you're actually doing more damage. But mess with those other ones, Slappy Taffy and Electric Cherry. Maybe you put the ones that aren't as frequently used and mix them with other ones to see how those work. Or find ways in game to make us want better rewards. Letting us use any melee we want, like the pickaxe we got in multiplayer, might encourage players to want to start with your pickaxe and get the Slappy Taffy first. I forget the Blitz name for the one that increases your melee damage, so that's why I'm saying Slappy Taffy. To start wrapping up here, I'm gonna hit on the last good and some good and bad points. The pommel as an equipment weapon was nice because, you know, sword didn't do anything in the last map, and it's nice to see that extra addition to getting to use more stuff to play the game to get rewarded for our journeys and quests. I also like how we get around on this map. It's wonderful that we can use minecart systems. Yeah, it's not revolutionary, but if it's not broke, don't fix it. Some of the best maps in all of Zombies, like Origins, for example, really hurts in that aspect of having to run around for maybe 30 seconds to a minute 30 seconds at a time just to get from one area to another. The experience of solo to 4-player in Origins is so drastically different because players can optimize where they're running to and where to get things. I love the little details they're adding to this game where you see there's more going on inside this world. Things that I loved in Derice where you saw those blood trails and you started to put stories together. On the beach, for example, if you go into the water and stare out, you see little shadows of possibly people staring at you. Are they the dead zombies? Are these ghosts? Are you hallucinating? They have stuff like that in the blood trails, and you see a logical progression of what the cultists were doing, what Straub's been doing at this base. There's a lot more being told with the design of the map, which is absolutely wonderful. And the final topic here is good and bad. They added more challenge characters in this DLC. Fantastic! I know it was a little before the DLC, but some of the challenges just seem a little ridiculous, but not all of them can be believed. One of the best news we've ever heard is they took away the descriptions online so they can't be data mined. They made them ambiguous and vague, so at least their cheat sheet and Sledgehammer, they know what to do. But on the flip side, they gotta be fair in the way they hint at us on how to unlock these characters. Maybe one of them you should make it really hard that we really gotta stumble across, but you don't want players to be frustrated being like, well, I'm never gonna unlock these unless anybody figures these out. Sort of like Jason Blundell's impossible Easter egg. People just lose interest over time. Now the characters being color palette switches and swaps and changes, all the same word, is problematic in the implementation, and let me tell you why. These characters have no personality and appearances mean everything to these characters. So if I don't like the way the character looks, the color is gonna do nothing for me and encourage me not to want to play as these guys. These nameless challenge players need to be retextures. They need to be different looking people that we can be like, oh, that's really badass, or that's really cool looking, or ooh, that looks so weird, I want to play as that one, or man, that one's goofy because I'm a troll and I love trolling all my friends who love immersion like Rat Austin 27, and I want to play as this character. A fundamental issue that occurred during the Easter egg with my co-host Quinn is that he played as one of these special characters and he missed out on the entire story of the Easter egg because they don't talk. And
like what though? Like
did you watch my 15-minute video about it at all?
Well, I've just been so busy catching up on old Rat Austin 27 videos.
That's what I figured. It's okay. It's okay.
Darkest Shore ones yet. But
what
even
year
playing
are you
it,
on?
we're in 2009 right now.
Oh, okay.
Slowly working through the backlogs of Red
Derice
Austin
videos?
27. Yes.
Oh, you want to kill yourself at that point.
But playing through the map, I didn't. With the final Reich, you could just play the map and kind of get a sense of what was happening. I felt with this map, I didn't really. It was like, okay, we're going to the island, and I know you look into it and you listen to all the audio logs, but it's just someone who just plays. And I like with Black Ops 3, I like the story. But I mostly like what's presented to me. I don't really have too much interest in delving deep into it, you know? Okay. With The Darkest Shore, I felt like very little was presented to me. Like you said, the character quotes, there were close to none, which you said that's a bug, or?
The round-by-round story ones. When you play with 4 players, you have to play 4 players.
Actually, never mind. That's a stupid argument, because I was playing as the Bat Agent, and I suppose they're not.
Oh, God damn it, Quinn!
I suppose they don't say much. Okay. Now that I think of it.
Oh, Jesus!
I was playing as a special character. Shoot.
Okay, that's fair, but like, I was like, man, did you like all the quotes were so much better? They're pointing shit out and they're helping characters.
Yeah, that probably did take a lot away from the Easter egg.
Oh my God! Like you don't even get if you're all 4, they don't talk then.
Yeah, she just groaned a lot.
That's something that goes along with really bad design for something that should find its way in. I don't know how you remedy that one. Do you do something like Dreisendrach, where in Solo you hear Richtofen go over the loudspeakers and you pretend he's there, so you pretend our crew is there? Or do you have to facilitate, you know, over the radios, we just hear them, and in this non-canon version, as we're playing as these anonymous, nameless characters, we still get to experience the story. I think that's something that needs more thought than I just gave it. But the color palette swaps aren't useless. What they work with is our main characters, because they have a personality. We are already building a connection to these people. So I would encourage, I'll push the limits here, right? Go as far as Borderlands 2's customization. Unbelievable, you don't charge for that, right? At least the base of it. They let you change their heads, their colors, and that. And you really got to enjoy the version of your character that you were without fundamentally changing the storyline too much. I know their personalities weren't too well developed in Borderlands 2, but a Marie in a different outfit that's appropriate for the setting, in a different color, will make players interested to unlock these things. Drosten with different hats and colors, it makes it more fun for us to identify with, see them from a different point of view, hairstyle, clothing style, and then we get to have our favorites, and then we get to debate about that, and then we work towards that, and eventually, maybe we unlock those in crates and that you already see. Not a big fan, like we need to be able to earn those just like the collections, I would argue, if you start implementing outfits to our characters, allow us to earn them in-game by working hard, or if you have to have the pay method that we're not going to get away from, do it in a way that's fair to the players, that we can at least try and rationalize, like, I get your business and you're making money, but you're not punishing me for not spending more money on your game. Now, I don't think they're going to ever go as far as the customization, especially for free, of the Borderlands 2 style, but just give us color palette changes and maybe change the coats and the outfits that our characters are wearing just a bit. That would be fun. I'd love to see our characters in certain outfits that are still within the scope of the immersion of the map, so it still makes sense. We're not having any characters in bikinis or modern warfare attire, but enough so it looks visually appealing and different to us. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. I know I took my time with this explanation, but I felt that to make my points, I'd rather have a nice conversation where I'm not trying to rush through my words, I'm not trying to hide my points between talking really fast and repeating myself over and over again. I want to truly give my thoughts and care into this map because I very much enjoy World War II Zombies. I love Treyarch zombies, and I enjoyed at times Infinite Warfare zombies, but that's just my personal preference in how I'm playing and how I consume zombies. Story means a lot more to me, where gameplay means a lot more to other people. So I'd like to hear your suggestions for mods, specialists, and consumables in the comments, or feedback you have to my criticisms as well. Maybe something I suggested, you said I would not want to play a game if they changed it up that way. I would love to know why, and your suggestion for how could they change that fundamental issue you might have with the mode for something that's more your preference. Now, obviously, this game can't meet everybody's likes and preferences, but it can do a good job at being what it's best at. And that's what I'm encouraging World War II Zombies and the Sledgehammer team to do, and Cameron Dayton for that matter. Do what you're best at and continue to pay attention to those tiny details. People already trying to write off World War II, to me, is so premature. We know zombies from Treyarch so well because we have such a catalog to choose from and to understand what they were trying to do with each map. World War II Zombies isn't there yet. We don't even see 3/4 of the vision yet. We only had the first 2 out of 6 maps. I guess that's what, 2/3? I guess we have 2/3, my bad. So if anything, my advice for you this video is try and lighten up. There's so much hatred, contrarian attitudes right now, argument, disagreements where we're not trying to grieve together, we're not trying to find a solution together or try and get to a place of understanding. It's just people venting at one another. Just try and enjoy the games for what they are. Just try and have fun. And if you're not enjoying it, that's okay. You don't have to crucify anybody for it, and you can say, this isn't for me. Or maybe I'll skip this one. And for those of you that do enjoy this, revel it. Stay in the moment and say, boy, this was a lot of fun. I'm glad there's good things going on today. I even feel it myself that this culture that we're living in right now is just so stressful, toxic, and angry right now. I think everyone's just so frustrated with so much that's going on. I think even in our small community of zombies, let's just escape. I'm a big proponent of that. Escape through your games and enjoy what you're doing. Let's laugh. Let's have fun. Let's try and continue to play a game mode and improve it instead of just trying to hate everything anybody's putting out. Creatively, I know Treyarch, Sledgehammer, and Infinity Ward, Jason Blundell, Lee Ross, and Cameron Dayton are not ever sitting inside their studios trying to think of a way to make your life miserable or trying to make you upset playing this game. They're trying to make the best product ever. And sometimes they miss their mark, sometimes they nail it. It's coming from people with genuine intentions. I'm Wilhelmsson27. I hope you enjoyed this very long video. If you did, leave a rating, subscribe for more Call of Duty Zombie stuff. I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!